Let's get ready to go here. All right. Good afternoon, Irving County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm going to take just about 10 or 15 minutes. Irving County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm going to take just about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to be discussing what transpired at today's Board of Commissioners meeting in regards to release of the county non-union 2023 wage scales. Really, I'm going to talk about what occurred and what didn't occur, what was approved on the agenda, and what wasn't approved on the agenda. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull that agenda up so I have the specific motion that was put forth. The system's running a little slow today. You'd think it was a rainy day. I can see I'm having a spinning circle of death here as I'm logging on to the website to pull up the specific agenda items, and it's saying the site cannot currently be reached. Let's see what's happening with our county website. And if I can't bring it up for some reason, I'll go ahead and I'll just talk through it. How about that? Yeah, it is truly not coming up there. Let me see if I can pull it from my Facebook page, because I always do post the agenda link on there. So maybe able to find a workaround way to get into the agenda so I can reference that specifically. Let's say there it is. Last night agenda. Okay, yep, I did a little bit of a workaround there. Let me get to the section of the and I can go ahead and do a screen share too, so you all can see what I'm referring to as I talk here. Let's go ahead. Bring it up right there. What you should be able to see right now is a page or a portion of the agenda for today's commissioners meeting. And I'm going to refer to a classification and compensation study, motion 22 TAC 645, which is more or less on the center of your screen, and it says salary scales non-union, and that's important. Salary scales non-union for adoption. New salary scales for all non-union supervisory and non-supervisory county personnel. Authorize forwarding the scales to the salary board. Remember, there are 4 permanent members of the salary board, 3 commissioners plus the controller, and then ad hoc members, and that would be the row officers plus the public defender when they have motions or dealing with their particular offices. So authorize forwarding the scales to the salary board for implementation at the scheduled annual salary board meeting of January 3rd, 2023, as well as distribution to all elected row offices, courts, and county departments. All right, so that's the motion that was up for consideration, and it was approved 3-0. So again, what was done today in the meeting itself, the wage scale was approved for distribution and forwarding to the salary board members, departments, row offices, and the courts. What wasn't done, no salaries were set or changed. Again, no salaries were set, nor were they changed at this meeting. The changes to salary, proposed changes to salary, will take place at the annual salary board meeting on January 3rd, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, followed by the Board of Commissioners meeting. That is a Tuesday. So I'm going to switch screen shares. I'm going to stop this share, take you to the actual wage scale and explain them so you as the public have at least a cursory understanding of what they are. And I'll give a little background of how they were developed. Drop back to my screen share, go to that different screen. All right, sharing. All right. So what is sharing? What should be sharing right now, I'm trying to see, make sure it comes up, is the supervisory non-union. I'll show you both the supervisory and non-supervisory. Let me pull this over onto my screen where my camera is, just to make it a little bit easier for me, so I'm not looking 45 degrees at you all, or you're just seeing a kind of a profile. So this wage scale that the Board of Commissioners approved is a product of really more than a year of research and analysis, primarily conducted by Evergreen Solutions, who were contracted to assist the county with the salary and compensation study. The data that was collected included reaching out to 25 Pennsylvania counties that were selected based on certain criteria to ensure equitable comparison. Understanding if you visited one Pennsylvania county, you visited one Pennsylvania county, right? They're all unique, but it would not make sense to compare Carbon County to Philadelphia or Allegheny County, for example, right? They would clearly be outliers. So 25, primarily Class 6 counties, were selected to compare our existing salaries and wages to. In addition to collecting salary data, what was also looked at was cost of living differentials or cost of living index. Understandably, in some counties, it's more expensive. And normally, in more expensive counties to live, you're more likely to see a higher wage, and vice versa. Lower cost of living counties, you're likely to see lower wages. So there was a cost of living index that was also brought in to help ensure the most accurate results possible as Evergreen reached out to these 25 other counties and sought their wages of salaries that we were seeking. The market survey, although we started this formally in February 11th, 2022, the actual collection of the data for the comparison counties was not done until 6/28. So starting 6/28 through July 19th. Give a few days or a week or so, because there was a couple laggers responding counties. Obviously, a couple counties didn't respond necessarily. So you had about a 2.5, 3 week period from June 28th to past mid-July when those comparable salaries were being collected. Keep in mind, this was also during the peak high month of inflation, right? On June 1st, the CPIU was 8.8. And by that time, quite a few counties had already pushed up their salaries. We actually saw one county, when it came to a particular specialty area, increase $10 an hour their salaries. But part of that was due to the proximity of another state. That kind of pushed it up for them to remain comparative. But we did include that data. And of course, you're taking 25 different counties. Things tend to average out once you really get rid of your outliers, right? Your extreme left and right. So again, I want to reemphasize that during the peak of inflation, right, 8.8, counties had already started adjusting salaries really from months prior is when this data was collected. What you're going to know, and again, I'm speaking to the public here who may not be familiar with our wage scales. This one is the supervisory non-union. And what you'll see are grades. So going down the left column from supervisory level 1 through 13. We had a previous scale that actually had 21 grades. So we've reduced it down to 13. And then you have steps. So they go from A to P, which are currently 16. Previously on this, you actually had 14. You went all, you had 24. You went all the way to X-ray or X. So every position in county government, with some exceptions, are classified on a grade and step. For example, an individual would normally come in, let's say if it's a supervisor level 1, step A. So the position was classified based on duties, responsibility, education requirements. As a supervisor 1A, they would be receiving $16 an hour when they first started. Now, there could be exceptions. Maybe the job description actually only asks for high school education, diploma, no experience necessary. Maybe we received an individual who actually has 3 or 4 years of experience, has an associate degrees. A case could be made that an individual could be brought in up to a level 1C. Again, so there is some, not subjectivity, but there could be some modifications even when someone initially comes in. They could be brought in up until a C step. Now, so how do you advance across or up? And again, I'm talking up in supervisory levels on the scale. You know, you're going from 1 to 2, but it appears to be down. Well, there's a couple ways you can do it. As you move historically from A, B, C, you could have an increase of duties and responsibilities, and then that row officer, department head makes a recommendation to the salary board saying, based upon the change in the duties and responsibilities, and, you know, I feel he or she would be justified in a higher pay raise because A, B, C, D, and E. And then the salary board would vote on that. And as you move across from A, B, C in these steps, it increases now 2.5%. So you go from $16 at 2.5% onto that, you go to $16.40. So if you were given a pay raise and it went from A to B, you get 2.5% take you to B. So as you go across the steps from A to B to B to C to C to D, you're going up 2.5%. Now, there is a potential for grades to change, but that would normally be associated. Normally, a grade would change if you assumed a new position. So, you know, you came in as an entry-level supervisor at a supervisor 1A at 16, and guess what? Another position after a year opened up in the county and you applied for it, and you would be applying for, you know, the supervisor 3A position that started at 1764. That is a way for you to potentially go up in grade. And then again, the other raises that could be merit-based, or let's say duties and responsibilities increase base, could be made by your supervisor to do those 2.5% increments. So again, going across in the letter steps, 2.5%. As you go down supervisory levels, these down here on the left, right, grades, they go up 5%. So if you came in as a S1, that would be $16. If you assumed a job that started at a supervisor 2 position, 2A, you'd actually be $16.80. And that's a 5% difference. So more or less, that is how the wage scale is utilized. And there are some nuances to that. But I think the most important thing to know is each position, when it is established, is given a grade and a step. It's always going to be established as an A position, but grade will be dependent upon duties, responsibility, educational requirements. Again, steps increase 2.5%, steps increase 2.5, grades increase by 5%. So you will notice here that in this updated scale, the lowest supervisor position, I don't even know if we have a supervisor 1A, would start at $16. That tells you that any and every supervisor in the county is being hired at least at $16 an hour. Now, this is all pending January implementation, because there could possibly be some individuals in that category who are now do not earn that amount of money, but it has been proposed by the Board of Commissioners. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that was your supervisory scale. All right. Then you also have your non-supervisory scale, non-union. And again, it works the same way. Each increase in step is a 5% increase. Excuse me. Each increase in grade is 5%. Step movement, 2.5%. So again, these new wage scales that were established were from input from all that data that was collected. So in reality, what you see anywhere from $13 to $37.28 are salaries that you could see in county government. Now, you could end up earning higher than that, but that would be based upon cost of living increases. What's going to occur in the non-supervisory, non-union, or what has occurred, like the supervisor position, the number of grades and steps have been reduced. The non-supervisory was formerly 17 grades, so that's down the left side, but now has 15 grades. Steps were reduced. It used to go from A to X. Now it goes from A to P. So a significant reduction also by 8, almost by a third or a third in steps. Now, I think it's important to understand, well, what happens if the Board of Commissioners would like to introduce in, say, 2024, so a year from January, a 2.5% pay increase? In the old system, what would have happened, everyone in the county who was at an A would have went to B, right? Remember, it's 2.5%, right? Everyone who was a B would have went to a C. What is going to happen henceforth going forward, if the Board of Commissioners say, okay, everyone is deserving of a cost of living increase of 2.5%, all the entire data in the table will change by 2.5%. So that 13 would become 1333. This would become 1333. This would become 1366, etc. Right? So individuals wouldn't be moving from, for example, non-supervisory 1A to 1B to get 2.5%. They will simply stay a 1A, but their hourly rate will go up. A little difficult perhaps to understand, but that is the way the system works. And if you know the system, you work in it regularly, it's not that complicated. But again, first coming in, it is. So that is a change, because formally, the entire table didn't change when their cost of living arrangement increase. Rather, people were given an additional step to match the cost of living arrangement. All right. Trying to look to see what other significant elements have come out of here. So I think it's important to understand that this isn't the complete salary study. This is just the culmination of what has been from January to November, collection and analysis of information, 8 of 11 tasks, which have allowed us to develop a wage scale, which was approved today. So there are 3 more tasks of the wage study, salary study to be done. But really a lot of it is narrative, writing down what a lot of the data actually has indicated. It's important to understand, as I stated, what didn't occur today. What didn't occur today, no salaries were modified, no salaries were changed, no pay increases, no pay decreases occurred during the Board of Commissioners meeting. I will mention, though, the data that was collected to help create these restructured wage scales, which have reduced grades and steps, which actually make it much easier to manage, has also allowed Evergreen to propose current salaries for all positions. Let's say they did an analysis on a clerk, and that position has historically been paying here $11.38. They go out, do the comparisons, right? Look at 25 different counties, right? They come back and make a recommendation, say, well, we know it's $11.38 that you're paying a starting salary, non-supervisory, 1A, right? Grade 1, step A. However, the fact is, it really should be starting at $13 an hour based upon market conditions at this time, right? So derived from that same data was that ability. And Evergreen provided that to the Board of Commissioners. I'm going to stop the screen share and I'm in a minute, and then I'm going to go to another document. And this is a document, and this is an example I'm going to show you for demonstration purposes only, kind of a sample of what each department and row officer was provided today. And this is really deliberative, pre-decisional information. It is what's called a complement for each department. And really what that is, it's the position, the salary, the grade, and the step. And each department and row officer today, after the Board of Commissioners meeting, was provided the proposed salary for January 1, 2023, which of course has to be approved by the salary board, though, to be effective when we meet at 2 p.m., commencing at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, January 3rd. So let me give you an example of what's called a complement. Don't like the term, but it is what it is. It's what the county calls it. So there it is. You have a complement. And as I said, for example, Exhibit A, and it may be replaced with Office X, position salaries. So here you see down the left column, the salary for one director. It's $18.99 an hour, and that corresponds to a supervisor 4B. $18.99 supervisor 4B. So let's just check that out and make sure that's what it is, right? Let's go back to our supervisor chart. It's too bad. Maybe you can share two screens at once, or you could put more. All right, so let's go to supervisor 4B. There's grade S4. So I'm on the supervisor scale, right? Let me just show you that. You see, it's a supervisor non-union. 4B, $18.99 right here. All right, oh, that's a little hard. So back to that share. All right. So in this particular fictional department, the director is earning on the new proposed complement $18.99 an hour. And on this new wage scale, because on the previous one that is no longer being used effective 1 January, maybe it was an S3 D or E, right? Could have been a supervisor 3 or D, but this is a more compressed grade and step scale. So on the new scale, this individual would be earning $18.99 an hour based upon market survey information, and they would be classified as a supervisor for step B. All right. There is no one who will be having a lower salary than they currently have. No one will be having a lower salary than they currently have. Right, here's another position. This is a non-supervisor position, right? It's a clerical specialist, $16.35 per hour. Non-supervisor, you see there's no S here. They would be grade 2, step A on the new wage scale. And again, on the old one, they could have been a different grade and step. But again, the fact is what you see are salaries are now reflecting fair market value, right? And then finally, one other position, a part-time clerical specialist, $13 an hour. Use this example. They are a 1A. All right. So again, difficult to understand. It's easiest when you sit down at a table and have the conversation going back and forth. Row officers understand this pretty darn well. Our HR department knows it inside out. Salary board members, 3 commissioners, controller, and then let's say the ad hoc members who come in when their equities are being discussed or there's a motion. The row officers and public defender, they know it quite well also. So let me just go through my notes real quick. If there are any questions, you can give me a call at 570-325-3611, 22 hours a day, right? Not between 5:30 and 7:30. That's my do not disturb on my phone goes on. At the county, you can call me 570-325-3611. Keep in mind the switchboard is only manned, womaned, all right, from 8:30 to 4:30. Other than that, it just rings. We don't actually have direct lines to commissioners in our offices. Everything is passed to us. But again, you always have the option 570-503-6780, or you can go ahead and, of course, always email me at clukasevich@carboncounty.net as another way to communicate with me. I will be posting these images of the wage scales online. And again, they really don't provide that much information. And I would suspect there's probably many county employees who really don't know their grade and step, right? What do they know? How much they earn, right? If you ask them, what's your grade and step? Probably can't tell you, but I have no doubt every county employee, if you ask them their annual or hourly rate, they probably have a 9 out of 10 chance of getting that right, as we all normally do, right? That's what's really important. I just don't want to talk about the study. You can see this is the 6th June version of the tasks associated with the salary study. Like I said, we're right about it in this phase right now. Tasks 9, 10, and 11 are currently being done. So these are yellow, and some of these are already green, actually. It's really seems to be us telling Evergreen, yes, we accepted all the data and data analysis that has been done, and now kind of need to write up the report and the findings. But here, this stuff is all green. We're just gonna, probably next week, if we haven't done it this week, we're approving the check to cover task 5 and 6. Expect shortly Evergreen to submit an invoice for billing for task 7 and 8, which again was that data analysis and recommendations of Board of Commissioners. And then we'll be finishing it up here. Again, I want to emphasize what was done today. The wage scale was for non-union. Bear in mind, non-union wages are actually discussed during bargaining unit negotiations, right? Not in the annual salary board meeting. So again, this is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. Just wanted to give the public some sense of what occurred today, dispel any rumors for employees or non-employees. No wages, salaries were changed, modified, increased, decreased today. That is a salary board action. The next salary board will be an annual salary board, which will take place Tuesday, 3 January, starting at 2 p.m. That tends to be a very long and lengthy meeting. You can expect a lot of discussion. I will tell you that, so the complement, as we call it, right, the proposed wage adjustments based on the salary study have been released to the department and row officers. All that information is pre-decisional, deliberative in nature, proposed. So they'll have time over the next week to look at it, consider it, and then we'll start a series of executive sessions, meeting with row officers, the courts, and potentially others, and discuss the findings and the proposals, and to help consider any potential modifications that the row officers or even department heads might recommend. And out of the executive session, the agenda is built for the meeting that'll take place on 3 January. So again, bit of a complicated topic, tough to explain virtually, mostly if one isn't already familiar with the system and haven't seen maybe the previous. Let me see if I have a copy of the previous one here for you. I'll show you. All right, I do actually. So the previous, or let's say the existing wage scale, here it is, non-supervisory, might be a little difficult to see. Here it is, you're seeing the grades actually here, they start at 2 and run all the way, 3 pages, all the way to 18. And you can see here, it can go all the way as far as over to X. It used to be X. So that's it. Then here's non-supervisory. Then I have supervisory. Again, this is the existing one right here. So not a dissimilar system, but now it's much more compact. And the wages on grades and step more accurately reflect fair market salaries for the employees. So I think the one thing you can derive from this and the wage scales have shown, no county employee is likely to see under $13 an hour in 2023 unless it doesn't pass the salary board. And I will tell you, it tends to be the 11.38 wages, that $11-12 tends to be part-time seasonal employees. I believe like lifeguards were probably 11.38 as an example in the existing structure right now. There were not that many individuals who were under 12. I was looking at currently, so this is my analysis, and I'm looking at this right here. We originally had under $13, and again, please bear in mind that does not include the 5% retirement contribution that the county makes to an individual, right? So really on top of this is an additional of your hourly salary is an additional 5% because the employee gives 5% towards their retirement and the county matches that up to 5%. So we had, my assessment was under 13, we had 76 employees. Under 14 had 102 employees. Under 15 was 115. Greater than $15 an hour, 275 employees. And again, these are just random numbers that I chose. And for the new complement, I've done that in much more detail. So there we go. $15 and less previously was 115. And I'm saying previously, which is right now, and greater than 15, 275. But those numbers are going to change based upon what the salary board decides on in regards to the proposed complement that we provided to Department of Revenue. So again, this is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. Appreciate having the opportunity to try to explain this a little bit. I will post the images hopefully tonight of the wage scales on C4 Commissioner Facebook page. I'll also write up some notes to try to explain it concisely, succinctly, completely. It's almost an impossible task to do in just bullet statements, but I will try to do that. And again, have a wonderful evening. Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm out of here.